If it will go down 40%, 50%, 60%, I can't say, but the number is going to be quite big.
Today, I'm speaking with Jerry Kyrk. I believe your name is not pronounced Kyrk, but that's what we're going with. And you're the franchisee of a very large Swedish company called, how do you pronounce it?
Bjurfors.
That's the one, Bjufors.
Yeah. Bjurfors is basically within the top three real estate agencies in Sweden, and a very well-known brand among the Swedish people. Basically, our main offices are in Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. And then we follow our clients where they buy their summer homes. So that's why we also are here in Spain. We have one office here in Marbella, we have one in Nerja, we have in Mallorca, we have two offices in Costa Blanca.
How long have you had the franchise here in Marbella?
We've been running it with more than 5 years, 5.5 years. And before that, I was with another big, famous Swedish brand real estate agency.
One that's obviously also hard to pronounce for us.
Even worse.
Even worse.
Even worse.
Okay. Wanted to get your feedback on how you see the Swedish market in terms of how it's the Swedish buying market for Marbella. In the municipality, I think the Swedish market is the second biggest international market after the British. Yeah. And I've been reading here and there that it's cooling a little bit, that the outlook for the Swedish buyer market is cooling. And I just wanted to get your feedback into, is this the case, and what are the reasons behind it?
Talk a little bit about Sweden versus Spain. I think it's important to understand the difference to be able to understand what is actually going on. I just wanted to start with Marbella. Marbella has, I call it the happy place. Marbella has shown incredible strength the last years, very resilient against the world problems. We had the Brexit, we had the pandemic, we had the war, and Marbella still just keeps on going. And the reason for that is, the sun, the beach, the golf, the quality of life. I used to call Marbella as the Florida of Europe. And this has attracted a lot of Swedish people. The last years, they've been buying at record levels. In general, we had like over 4,000 Swedish people buying every year, which is big numbers for a small country as Sweden. We all see that something is happening, and that's what I'm going to try to address a little bit here today. If we compare the market, Sweden, Spain, Sweden has high loan to value ratio. The property prices in Sweden has been booming, and they are quite high compared to many places. And the Swedish people, they have mortgage on their properties, and the level of the mortgage is quite high. So it's not uncommon that you have 85% in mortgage on a very high priced property. In Spain, we don't have the same problem. We will compare it on the next slide. But then we also have something called Bostadratt, a Swedish word. In Sweden, in many cases, when it comes to apartments, you don't own the apartment. You own a share in the community. Okay, so you don't actually have a title deed on your property. And the communities, quite often, they have mortgages themselves, and quite big ones. So when we have interests going up, of course, a Swedish person will be affected because the mortgage on the property to the bank is gonna go up. They need to pay more money. But then you have the double effect because the community might also need to raise the community fees due to these interest rates going up. So you get actually double effect on the interest rate. Swedish market is also very local market and mainly primary accommodation. So not really any investments or it's not really an international market, very, very local market. If we look at the Spanish market, the loan to value ratio is much lower. You own your apartment. It's actually, you get a title deed on the apartment, and normally the communities, they don't have a mortgage in Spain. So you don't get this double interest effect. course, a primary residence in Spain, a lot of the properties are that, but also you have a lot of investment properties, and it can be an investment in life or a financial one. And it's a very international market. We used to say that it might be up to 140 different nationalities living in Marbella. So you don't really get much more international than that.
So what's the situation with Swedish buyers of Marbella property? What's the current situation?
Yeah. So if we look at the household debt in Sweden, and you look at it as a percentage of the net household disposable income, it's basically twice as high in Sweden compared to Spain. So you have a debt of 200 and a little bit more than 200% of the net household disposable income, compared to 100% basically in Spain. And which means that when the interest goes up, a country like Sweden will be, have more problems than a country like Spain, quite obviously. And we see the interest rates going up, and we predict that it will continue for a while. And of course, that's gonna hit the wallet, the money, disposable money income on the Swedish people. And how does that affect the market? If we look at the market in Spain, I don't know if you saw the quarterly numbers for the third quarter here, but it still came in with an increase. So we had an increase of 1.3% in Spain for the third quarter of this year. If we look at the same numbers in Sweden, the property market went down 7 to 8% during the same period. What basically that means is that a person in Sweden, they see that their primary residence goes down in value. It doesn't make them feel as rich anymore, and they start to spend less money. And of course, buying a property abroad might not be on the top of the list anymore. Then we have the exchange rate. Since we have, we have quite a lot of problems in the world. A small country that we don't have the euro in Sweden. We use the Swedish krona. And a small country, they always get hit quite hard when we have problems in the world, and everybody's fleeing to dollars and euros. So if we look at the exchange rate today, it's roughly 6% more expensive to buy euros for a Swedish person than the 5-year average. So the property prices in Spain, they've been going up roughly 10% every year the last years. And on top of that, you have a weak Swedish krona, which also going to affect, of course, the buying power of the Swedish people.
In Marbella, there are quite a few agencies that specialize in the Swedish market, such as yourself.
Yeah.
Is this something that they're going to have to pivot a little bit and broaden their targeting a little bit, or do you think there's still going to be plenty to go around?
What we're going to see, the Swedish people, they're still going to want the quality of life that we have here. So we have the happy place Marbella scenario that's still going to drive people here. People want to escape their everyday problems. So when there is a problem in their home country or wherever, they want to escape to Marbella to just enjoy life. And that will continue for sure, but not at the same rate that we've seen. If it will go down 40%, 50%, 60%, I can't say, but the number gonna be quite big. I'm quite confident. And that one important thing also, when we look at the numbers, when they're gonna come in from registradores a few months from now, it's still gonna be a lot of new developments in those numbers. So we will not immediately see that in the numbers, but I think you will notice that at the agencies that the interest is gonna be lower for sure. I think the real estate market in Marbella, we have to adjust to this. It might be a little bit too many agencies and agents on the coast focusing on the Swedish people. So I think that's gonna be a normal adjustment. So we will see some agents will probably leave. That's my prediction. We also need to focus also on the broader level, because it's been the last years, it's been some developers focusing to create products basically for the Scandinavian market. They have to start to think a little bit broader, a little bit more international, to have a product that they can sell to more nationalities than just the Scandinavians. So that is also something I think is important for the future.
One of the things I've noticed over the last month are several connections from LinkedIn, developers and so on, advertising for sales representatives that speak Swedish.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think that they might be a little bit behind the curve on that one.
Yeah, I agree. And I still see Swedish brands opening, a month ago. Maybe it's not the perfect timing for them. We'll see. But it might be a little bit late to try to establish yourself here at this
I guess
moment.
like you said, even though the mad volume is likely is going to drop, there's always going to be an interest in here for Sweden's
so it will
always
be
loved
business
Marbella.
to be done for sure. And I think it might be quite important to have a brand behind you also, because if you are one person, you have your office in your mobile phone and no brand, it might be a little bit tougher to make business for them for the future.
I mean, I guess Swedish people looking to buy in Marbella, they will already be aware of the company that you work with. So it gives you a bit of a head start, doesn't it? And I presume they probably feed you customers, I presume, that they have over there that are looking to buy a second home over here.
Yeah.
So it's a connection to have. Well, Jerry, that's been really, really insightful. Thank you very much for your time. And let's see how it goes over the next 3 to 6 months, and maybe have another conversation and see where it all ended up.
If I was totally wrong, or
hopefully you're wrong, but I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.